And this is a friendly reminder of history. And it's a friendly reminder because, as you guys may have seen, Howard Schultz may be running for president. Howard Schultz, who started Starbucks, he's CEO of Starbucks. I don't know if he still is. I think he might have like just sold it all off. But anyway, he's the Starbucks guy. That's who Howard Schultz is. And he might be running for president. Howard Schultz doesn't think we can have universal health care. Howard Schultz doesn't have confidence that the country can orchestrate healthcare the way his company can. Isn't that the guy you want to be president? I mean, man, what? He has so much confidence in the country, I'll tell you. Anyway, Howard Schultz might be running for president, which would be a train wreck on many levels. Here's a reminder of a little bit of history. The dark side of globalization, why Seattle's 1999 protesters were right. The WTO demonstrators for the Occupy movement of the late 20th century mocked, maligned, and mostly right. And I think they mean right as in they were correct, not right politically. In 1999, my friend moved to Seattle where he was hit with rubber bullets. This is the article. Tear gas in the face and nearly arrested by police. He had joined the famous protests of the WTO Ministerial Conference, widely known as the Seattle Protests. The Occupy Wall Street of their time, they focused on globalization rather than the excesses of finance. And quite like the Occupy Wall Street of their time, they were often mocked. The organizers were a hodgepodge of groups. Unions worried about competition from cheap foreign labor, environmentalists, consumer protection groups, labor rights groups. And in the decade that followed, the Seattle protests came to seem as not only silly but also misguided. After all, what were the excesses of globalization compared to the travesty of the Iraq War or the disaster of the financial crisis? Well, gee, I think globalization leads to more wars in many cases because, hey, you want that energy from other countries. I think the article knows this. I know this is a rhetorical thing, but, just throwing that in there. America seemed to decide that we had much more important things to protest about, and the Seattle protesters have largely been forgotten about in pop media culture. It's a shame. Why? Well, here's what the article says. The dark side of globalization. The clearest example is competition from foreign workers, which really has slammed the American working class. Chinese imports have also lowered prices for consumers and raised the income of capital owners, but these benefits are either spread very thinly over a large number of people or concentrated among the rich, meaning the regular consumer does not benefit. Next, take unsafe imports. Scary truth, we don't even really know how much of a problem that is. How about environmental destruction? The race to the bottom theory is that by allowing rich country companies to invest freely in countries that don't protect the environment, which, by the way, United States doesn't really protect the environment. Globalization forces rich countries to lower their environmental standards as well. Bingo. That theory doesn't seem to have a lot of support in the data. Economists have generally found little effect of globalization on pollution in the U.S. itself, but globalization does seem to export pollution to developing countries. For many types of pollution, the burden falls on our trade partners. Chinese people are literally choking to death by coal smoke. And we got our issues here, too. I think the environment would be their playground whether or not they exported it, but the fact that they do probably only makes it worse. And they bring up carbon emissions, labor standards. Almost everything the Seattle protesters have warned us about has come to pass, much of it a direct result of the WTO's actions in 2000. So there you go. Interesting article talking about the issues of globalization, what the Seattle protests were all about. And, Howard Schultz was not a fan of those protests. Now, I don't condone violent action. That is something I am against. I'm against violent action. I favor nonviolent protests. However, you can still be nonviolent and interrupt. Nonviolent protest does not mean you're not interrupting anything or you're not being civilly disobedient. So that's the type of action that I call for or favor.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron.